An English king won the most heroic battle of his life, and it killed him. Not on the battlefield, not from a wound. It killed him because winning took everything he had. And 3 weeks later, with his best warriors dead and his army barely standing, William the Conqueror showed up. England fell, the Viking Age ended, and the world we still live in today began. All because of one September morning in 1066 on a wooden bridge in Yorkshire. This is the Battle of Stamford Bridge, and it is wilder than anything Hollywood has ever given you. To understand this battle, you need to know the three men at the center of it. First, Harald Hardrada. Say that name slowly. Hardrada. It means hard ruler in Old Norse, and the man lived up to every syllable. He stood over 6 feet tall in an era when the average man barely reached 5.5. He had fought as an elite mercenary bodyguard for the Byzantine emperor in Constantinople. He survived exile, civil war, and decades of brutal combat across 3 continents. Harald Hardrada was not just a Viking king. He was arguably the greatest warrior alive in 1066. And he believed, truly believed, that the English throne was his by right. Second, Tostig Godwinson. Here is where it gets personal. Tostig was the brother of the English king, Harold Godwinson, his own flesh and blood. But Harold had allowed Tostig to be stripped of his title and exiled the year before. Tostig never forgave him. So what did Tostig do? He sailed to Norway, walked up to the most feared Viking king alive, and said, "Help me take England from my brother." Brother against brother. This was not just a war, it was a family catastrophe. Third, King Harold Godwinson of England. Harold was experienced, respected, and fiercely loyal to his kingdom. But in the autumn of 1066, he was being squeezed from 2 directions at once. In the south, William of Normandy was massing ships for invasion. And now in the north, his exiled brother and the most dangerous Viking on earth had just landed with 300 longships and up to 11,000 men. Harold had to move, fast. When Harold received word of the Viking landing, he was in London, nearly 200 miles away. The Viking army had already crushed the northern English forces. York, one of England's greatest cities, had surrendered. Hardrada was camped at Stamford Bridge expecting a peaceful handover of hostages and supplies. He thought this was over. He was wrong. Harold Godwinson did something that military historians still talk about nearly 1,000 years later. He assembled his army and force-marched them 200 miles north in just 4 to 7 days. 4 to 7 days. A journey that normally took weeks. No pause, no rest. Just sheer burning will. His men arrived exhausted, feet bleeding, lungs on fire. But they arrived before anyone expected them. And on the morning of September 25th, 1066, they came over the hill. Then picture this. It is a hot September morning. The Norwegians are camped on both sides of the River Derwent. Their chainmail armor is back at the ships, miles away. They expected nothing more dangerous than a diplomatic handover. Some are washing their feet in the river, some are half asleep. Then someone sees it, a glittering cloud on the horizon, thousands of spear tips catching the morning light, an entire English army marching fast, banners flying, panic, scramble. No time to send for the armor, no time to form proper lines, and there is only one way across that river. A narrow wooden bridge. One man stepped forward to hold it. We do not know his name. The chronicles call him a giant Norwegian axeman, a berserker. Whatever he was, what he did next is extraordinary. Alone, this man held that bridge. The English came at him 1 or 2 at a time, because the bridge was too narrow for more, and he cut them down, one after another. According to the chronicles, he killed over 40 Englishmen with his battle axe before anyone could get past him. 40 men, 1 axeman, 1 bridge. The English army watched in disbelief. Finally, one soldier had an idea. He crouched underneath the bridge planks and drove a spear upward through the gaps in the wood. The giant fell. The English crossed. But that delay had given the Norwegians just enough time to pull back and form a shield wall on the far bank. The real battle was just beginning. The Vikings were outnumbered, under-armored, and caught completely off guard. But they were Vikings. They did not break. They formed a tight shield wall and held. Harald Hardrada was everywhere, massive, terrifying, screaming encouragement to his men. Some accounts say he had dreams and omens before the battle warning him of his own death. He fought anyway. Then an arrow found his throat. The man who had survived Byzantine battlefields, northern civil wars, and 30 years of Viking conquest, died on an English riverbank. And when the greatest Viking warrior of the age fell, the Norse line cracked. The English broke through. What followed was not a battle, it was a massacre. Hardrada's reserve forces arrived from the ships wearing full armor in the September heat, having run miles to reach the fight. They were exhausted before they threw a single punch. The English cut them to pieces. Of the 250 to 300 longships that had carried up to 11,000 Norwegian invaders to England, only 24 ships were needed to carry the survivors home. 9,000 men, gone. Harold Godwinson had done the impossible. He had outmarched, outsmarted, and outfought the most feared Viking force in a generation. He should have had months to rest, to rebuild. He had 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Because on October 1st, word arrived. William of Normandy had landed in the south. Harold turned his exhausted army around. His best warriors, who had just bled at Stamford Bridge, marched back south. On October 14, 1066, 19 days after Stamford Bridge, Harold's weary army met the Normans at the Battle of Hastings. He lost. Harold died on that field. The Battle of Stamford Bridge, September 25th, 1066. The last great Viking invasion, the end of an age, and the beginning of everything that came after. If you made it this far, you now know one of the most dramatic stories in all of human history.